Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another AI castover. This time for Cosmonarchy's latest patch, as of the recording date of this video, 28th of June, 2021. Today I'm going to walk you through some of the changes that have been made. I can't cover them all because as it's been a month since the previous patch, a lot of things have changed. Some obviously, I would imagine most obviously, for the better. Big takeaways are improvement of stability, although there are some newer bugs, or maybe bugs that we just only discovered recently, that still need to be fixed. Those are listed in the caveat section of the patch notes. However, aside from that, we obviously have some massive updates to the tools available to developers. We got color randomization in all senses now. We got obviously the opportunity to start a game without a computer player, which is what you see me doing here. No longer do you need SP allowers, single player allowers. No need for those. And of course, the other thing, the key takeaway from there is just a suite of various changes and support for neutral structures like bunkers and Nydus canals, as well as some stuff that Veek more particularly has been working on, like map reveals and stuff. So plenty of new tricks for people to learn and figure out over time. Obviously, another key component of this patch was overhauling the Protoss tech tree. So there's no requirements, no structural requirements for the structures that they build. You can go robotics authority into whatever you want. Absolutely nothing is left with a requirement. However, obviously one of the key distinctions here is now the costs have been ramped up to match the fact that these are high tier structures. And we're kind of basing the fact that these are high tier structures off of the fact that they have very expensive costs. And that is where the tier expression comes into. So you've paid a lot of money for it, but you don't necessarily need to build a bunch of requisite structures to get there. So that's the key design philosophy there. I could blab all day about this stuff. We're just going to get into the map and into the match, into the castover. It's Dead Ringer, a map I worked on for the mapping tutorial very recently, so you should check that out if you're interested in making your own maps or just seeing what goes into the creation of a map. I won't lie, Dead Ringer is a map that I probably won't be too heavily invested in updating. I'll talk about that a little bit later. First, let's introduce our competitors. We have, in the top right-hand corner, Emerald Zerg, and his buddy in the top left. He's the front line of this team. It's Neon Blue Protoss. You can hold Shift while you are mousing over the armor tooltip, by the way, if you didn't know that. Although it does say hold Shift for more detail, so you should know that. Down in the bottom, frontline Dark Olive Terran, joined by the Tomato Zerg backline. So the Zerg are the backline in both of these cases. That'll be interesting. They get access to extra gas. And the Protoss, they've got a pylon, which is a nifty new wireframe, courtesy of Junzi Young. I think he did a really good job with this one. He also did the updated Command Center one, which looks a little bit rougher, but actually matches the graphic. If you never noticed, the old one, you should go back and look at it at some point. It has clearly of some structure that the Command Center was in like early beta or something, of a completely unrelated render. So even though we can't always guarantee that the new UI is of the absolute highest quality, we can usually count for, you know, something like, I think the pylon is a really good one. A lot of the stuff that Junzi Young does for like the new units and stuff is really good, so shout outs to him. And obviously we get to enjoy the fact that they match the unit that they are meant to represent instead of being some weird beta thing like the old pylon wireframe was. Or even the old Nexus wireframe was long time ago. Junzi Young is also responsible for this one, I believe. So yeah, cool guy. Anyway, obviously, I did say I was going to linger on the topic, the potentiality of using Dead Ringer as a map to discuss the idea of updating maps that are made for these mapping tutorials. And for some reason, I do have this aversion to continuing to develop a map that where the whole reason the map existed was so that I could put together some sort of video. And I guess it's because so much of the map's reason to exist, you know, I didn't naturally decide, oh yeah, I'm going to make a melee map. I've done that before, obviously, but I didn't decide that this time around, and I was thinking, what does it really make sense? Like, what exactly should I be doing for this map's update now that the video is out? And you've got so much invested in making the video. You got the editing, you got the actual act of making the map in the first place, that when the video is out, it feels like in your head, the project is done. At least this is how it feels like for me. So I have no real immediate desire to go through and finish the map or update the map. I did do some terrain decoration with some custom or some additional texturing, which is why, like, down here in the bottom, you've got dirt and grass and stuff, and you compare that with the snow and more monochromatic color scheme that we've got with the moguls. Now, that's pretty much all I did. I did not really place too many doodads or custom tiles or anything beyond what was necessary for, like, the coastal snow that you see over here that was from DF. He made those originally, and I've plastered them all over the place. I just think that they look way better than the dirt snow, or the dirt water. You should take a look at that as a comparison if you have some time later. It's pretty sad what they left us with compared to what we had in beta. Like, they made these tiles in beta. DF cleaned them up from screenshots and made a lot of changes to them and stuff, and he's responsible for making sure that they cycle and all that. So he's, again, cool guy. Cool guy DF, cool guy Junthryong. Thanks, guys. But yeah, now that this map's video is out, I feel like I should just be moving on to the next video in the series. So I guess you can stay tuned and be excited for that. We have a bit of an attack massing up here, but it's been discovered by some Zethra cores. Oh, no. Now, thankfully, there is some kiting going on, and they even brought a witness because they've been building their forges a little bit more often, but you can't kite if you're surrounded, and that's what these Zethra cores are, although I don't know what this guy's doing. He's just got the classic bug where if you escape the unit's range at the right time in their animation, they just freeze forever. I don't know why that happens. Lard is... they work in mysterious ways. Meanwhile, we do have a biological-based Terran army to round out the composition of the South team. A spinning Zethra shines brightly from both hatcheries as a ward against enemies, a totem, a Tikimon, if you will. And yes, the forge is spinning. So forges are like quarries. Terrans have quarries, which is an add-on to the command center. Forges can just be built all over the place. And in addition to building scribes, so you can queue additional ones from those, you also get access to witnesses, clarions, envoys, which are the... I guess I should translate that for somebody who's not aware of the new names, but envoy is shuttle, and witness is observer. Obviously, way better names, of course. Witness is actually something that was in the game files. That's what the observer is actually called. So it's really goofy to me that they didn't bother doing that here. I'm noticing that there's not really that many Droleths. I guess they're coming out of the eggs now, but this is definitely a build that maybe needed a little bit more hand-holding in the early game. The AI build orders still do need to see some improvements. He's got a lot of military units. He will actually be able to riposte this attack, which is pretty nice. However, it's... you know what, maybe I take back some of that criticism. If he attacked with all available units right now, it would actually be quite devastating. I don't think that this Dark Olive Terran in the bottom right has much to do with that. However, the Zerg over here have made a single... Oh no, there's a couple of scribes that ended up getting corpsed. I'm not really sure what the fuck these guys are doing. I guess they're massing up for an attack and they've decided to not be defenders. Very goofy. Yeah, fuck that aquifer. Oh, now you've done it. Now you've aggroed them. Yeah, AI decision-making is still the main reason why we can't remove the multipliers. That and worker management, which theoretically I have some control over and should be able to improve, but only so far. And again, I guess this guy was like spamming so many units that if he just had like maybe 10% more workers on the mineral lines, he would actually be able to be continuously threatening even to a player. Like, a player walks in with an army of comparable size to Dark Olive and they see that many units. They also don't have... There's the intimidation factor where they don't have the scouting to know that there's actually very little behind this. It actually does remind me of the classic Brood War days where you would think your opponent is way farther ahead than they are, and if you just hold on a little bit longer, you might be able to riposte them and then find out that they've got barely any tech or barely any workers, barely any econ. In this case, the Zerg has had a little bit of time to, improve in that sense, but it does look like maybe the priority for workers needs to go up just a little bit. I've been tweaking it now and again to try to improve things. I guess we can check in on this guy. By comparison, he's got quite a few more Droleths. Particularly, he's drolled up quite well in the expansion over here, where he's obviously built a lot of hatcheries, and that's quite interesting. Looks like we might see some Calculisks and Vithrilisks out of this guy. And this, of course, this Nexus is off-center by a little bit. I should be able to patch that up very shortly. And yeah, we have a big Protoss force. Big man. And of course, I missed this battle, but, you see the corpses, you know what happened. There was an Ahmed and his woman. Another expansion being attempted by the looks of things. Not just by the Protoss, but by the Zerg as well. This guy's idle, so he's waiting to fetch the resources required. And yeah, the expansion is rolling up just fine. It looks like now that we have a decent amount of larvae, and of course that we have the requisite amount of trolls down here, there's going to be a little bit more going on there. The only question I have is, like, he's got some static defense. I don't see any... I see one spore colony. It's not very well placed, so this Mutalisk will have to go down to Quasis, which is fine. I actually don't think... Oh yeah, he's got some more over here. Okay. So even though this force is going to get hit in the head, he's getting a Vithrilisк, so he's not really going to be that useful. Fuck him up! The workers around the world unite. Owned. Meanwhile, attempting to support. We do have a bit of a scuffle going on here. Hierophant trying to kite the Mavericks. It took so long for Veek to be able to finally find a way to tap into the code to make these units kite a little bit more reasonably and actually kite between attacks. But now that he's done it, I will say that on the occasions that it works, and I think it's usually fairly decent, especially for ground units, that especially for units that don't move via flingy, where they have acceleration, which is all air units and then hovering units like workers and stuff. I think in those cases in particular, it works really well. Like the Quasilisks you saw doing a lot of really good stutter stepping. So I think it does objectively add value way more than it loses them DPS. However, in the case of AI on AI battles, it might look a little bit silly. I think it still looks pretty thematic, though. I think overall it's pretty good. The silly moments are still being ironed out, and it's in a much better place than it was just one patch ago, obviously, 1 month ago. So in about a month's time, he was able to pretty heavily refactor and revise the stuff. And I guess, now that I think about it, I did do a number of castovers that didn't end up seeing the light of day because of one issue or another in the game, and it just ended up being like a crash in the middle of it, or, you know, that's the stability stuff I spoke of briefly in the lobby there. Just commenting on how stability is improved. And yeah, we've got a couple of bugs here and there, but you know, generally speaking, the first run stability in particular is way better, and you're just generally going to have a better time, more consistent, stable time. And yeah, I think that's pretty good, obviously. But the castovers that I did do back then had the kiting. However, the last publicly released castover did not have kiting. So I think that that's an interesting notion that for people on the YouTube channel who maybe only follow development through this, or who are looking back on it in, you know, years' time or whatever, those people will be very surprised to see the kiting if they were looking at it chronologically. I see the clerics have been forming a scouting party. We do have some ends. Spliced cohort, by the way. I guess I should probably remove the rank display for spliced units. Would make sense. Zerg Excisant, by the way. Another good one. Now we're starting to get somewhere with the moolah rolling in for the Zerg. They've got 2 fully saturated bases. Ooh, transport usage fixed. That's a classic. That was just some dumb GPTP hook written by somebody else that broke transports for AI. And that's a good stutter step. The comment next to the hook was, "This could not be tested because it was never called." Probably because the guy didn't ever test it with AI, whoever wrote it. So just disabling that. We weren't using it for anything. Just disabling it fixed the problem, of course. Classic. Just another reminder. Oh, shit. This base has made some mistakes in its past life, by the looks of things. And meanwhile, this Mutalisk is griefing. 3 kills, not bad. He's trying to keep the Nexus alive. It's not happening. I would say this AI is too smart, but really it's just obviously luck of the draw in terms of whether or not the AI positions its units correctly. So there you go. That was epic. There's still a bit of a fight going on over here. And yeah, with this base up and running down up in the top left, it's not impossible for this North team to win, you know? Obviously the Zerg is going to start hard carrying if they haven't been considered hard carrying already. I'm seeing a Gezkath Grotto. I'm seeing Nyduses. Nyduses have been a big focal point for Veek's attention over the last couple of days. I'm also seeing a decent amount of creep. And yeah, higher tier tech. Do we have Nyduses for this player? We do have the tech for them, but they haven't started deploying just yet. Now, Nyduses have been revised such that you can actually... all races can use them. The AI uses them for all races. I think you could have used them for all races before. But it's mostly... the changes are mostly that neutral, like, placed Nydus Canals, pre-placed Nydus Canals for the neutral player, same player you place the resources for, can be used by any old person, anybody on the team. Same for neutral bunkers, actually. This guy's just trying to put a Nexus down, and he keeps getting fucked. It's kind of funny that this guy went Vithralisks, and then the response was Mutalisks. It almost goes to show you that this AI doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, and can't adapt, ever. But yeah, since we have shared vision of these guys, you can actually see the link. If you detect them, if you bring like a witness over here, you can also see the link. And as you can see, the AI are making use of them. The other thing that you'll probably be able to see, if you spot it, is... since there's a precedent set by Nydus players existing now, you will probably see some death of Protoss. That's what it looks like right now. But you'll also probably see a proxy Nydus, because the code does exist for that now. And so the question really is, like, how soon does that get thrown down? This guy doesn't seem massively interested in placing Nydus Canals just yet, so I guess maybe we won't see that. But who knows? Maybe this guy will 1v2 and somehow manage to do things. Because he's kind of left his ally up to dry here, and he hasn't really done anything meaningful to the guys down here. So there's just this force massing up, and I don't know that he's going to have much to do about it. This to me looks like the player here rolled a Unholy Trinity build or something. It's a little bit of focus on infantry alongside scrapyard units. The Shadow tech tree was fleshed out a lot in this patch, although we aren't seeing any of the units for it, but that's just because this player hasn't ascended to that tech level yet. They have now. They theoretically could start throwing down Tinkerer's Towers and Biotic Bases and stuff. But I don't think there's any build with explicit requests for those yet, so we're still getting there. We're still working our way there. As I mentioned before, that guy was stuck again, just like that Zethricore from earlier. I mentioned before that the AI build orders definitely need to be optimized and improved, and that hasn't changed. That still is very much the case. I thought I remember Solarians actually kiting, but maybe they've been... maybe that was me hallucinating, watching a Brood War Pro game, or maybe they've just been disabled for some other reason. Who knows? Important to note is that there is a bit of a front line here still, so that's nice. We got some Gazithalors. Yeah, this guy's actually ascended up the tech tree quite fast. He's got a ton of different units. He still just has the one Nydus by the looks of it, which is fine, I suppose. But I'm sure that will change over time. We don't seem to have any Nyduses yet over here. We do have the AI, generally speaking. They will build more static defense than before. Here's a Nydus. It hasn't placed the exit yet. There's another Nydus over here. Ultrac Cavern, nice to see. Might see some Ultra Cores come out. Those have gotten a little bit more rare now, but they do exist in the tech tree. I promise. This guy's desperately trying to retake the space. Still not secured himself enough by the looks of things. We do have some heavy ships. I think I just saw a Minotaur flying around. Maybe that was just me scrolling too fast and seeing the Gorgon. This bug I would love to fix. Air units or structures try to place add-ons, and then they're like, I guess I won't because I suck. And then they just don't even land the structure so that I can at least contribute basic units. They just float it forever. They never iterate over it. Some swarming happening. I guess there was a Convolutk somewhere. There's a Stasis. I don't know that it was... it might have been jumping the gun a little bit there. Sirens are a real nice unit, and I'm glad that we're seeing AI use them a little bit more often. You can see that they had a link right there to give them an extra attack. They don't anymore. They definitely work best when you have additional things, okay? They work best when you have additional spellcasters. And it looks like we're fast reaching the point where the bases have been saturated. Yeah, actually the Zerg player has decided to take this. Some Nyduses. They have links now. This one is targeted over here. That one's targeted over there. So you can see they've started to put together a bit of a web, so to speak. I actually think, funnily enough, the Starcraft 2 method of handling Nyduses, where you load them into a single structure and then you unload them from a worm, would probably be a little bit closer to what the Nydus idea would look like in a new engine, or assuming we just found the way to reverse engineer and do the work. Just because I think that makes a lot more sense to just place nodes and then be able to set the target and then immediately path them through there. But I also don't know if there would be a travel time or if it would be instantaneous, because I always felt that it was a little goofy. Maybe this is just how it has to be for gameplay, but I always felt it was a little goofy that you would have like these cross-continental, like massive, like from one corner of the map to the other connections, and all that would happen is you would see some units that would instantly teleport from one side to another. So I always thought that was a little goofy. Fuck that hover tank. Oof. Fuck that motorcycle. Don't you know I'm doing a cast over? It's incredibly important. Dude, a bird almost flew into my window. I'm glad I looked up at that time. Speaking of flying into windows, this space seems to have closed its windows, and then the Zerg busted through anyway. But there is an Empyrean here, and the area damage will be quite useful. Fuck them up. Kite and lose DPS. I think we just may have forgotten to unfuck those. But that's okay. Can't get them all in the same patch, even though we damn well tried. The Nydus being over here is definitely helpful for the ground units, and we do have a large number of ground units. I think we actually got 2 really good Zerg builds overall in terms of the tech, like ascending through the tech. It looks like maybe their attack vectors are getting full again to the point where they actually can't queue up a lot of the higher tier units. We have some Zoryusthaleths over here with their custom burrow graphic, but we do have like the full tech tree basically, although we don't have a Lazel Arbor yet for the bottom left player. The Tomato Zerg. But the Emerald Zerg definitely have it. That does mean if they dropped an Orboth Omlio, which they haven't yet, that would unlock the new tech for them. So I suppose we just have to wait for them to decide to do that. That's another thing where there are no explicit requests. It's just like, oh, if I don't have this, I should get it. And I think the priority for requests like that are pretty low, so it's probably not even useful. We have a Sovereign left spinning. Has quite high base speed. If you can kite like an AI, you'll be pretty good with them. This is a skirmish of sorts, and it looks like it's trending towards Emerald's way. He's even starting to get static defense at his natural now, which is a welcome sight. I see pretty consistent Nydus usage. Obviously, the Terran AI can also use it. I like how they've been pathing around because they think that the space was threatened. I guess it was. There were air units making their way over. Part of me dies inside when I see Rillilisks, the air version of Broodlings, also known as Rillarokors, now known as Rillarokors. Because I did originally call that graphic Space Butter, and now it's in my fucking game. Why did I do this to myself? Oh, quick, flee through the Nydus. They should actually use that to retreat. That would be pretty epic. I remember I had a concept a long time ago where there would be an evolution to the Nydus Canal that would give your units like a speed boost when you used it. So it would basically be like a greater canal. I was going to call it the Nydus Artery, and it would also be allowed to place its exits off creep and a bunch of other really overpowered stuff. Which is actually fine. Like, if you guys haven't noticed with my design philosophy, we didn't see Anthelians this run. We didn't see a lot of the units that are actually very, very strong. If only you weren't, like, kiting your fucking witness, you might have actually saved some units. Jesus. We didn't see a lot of that stuff, but my design philosophy is just to give every race a bunch of really overpowered units and see how it chalks up, see where it goes, you know? I think that's... I think eventually you resolve a game state that has a lot of opportunities that way. If you don't limit yourself to, oh, I would love to do that, but it's too ambitious, too ridiculous. Meanwhile... this is quite ridiculous, but in a good way, in a way that it's just beautiful. We even have some Protoss actually doing something. In fact, it looks like there's just this map-wide skirmish, and mostly it's Emerald, but there's a high-power Protoss army coming back online now. And it, again, even though this base isn't mined, it's more important that there's a Nydus here to allow instant transport to this side of the map for Emerald, who obviously controls a lot of power. And has a lot of power in their tech tree, and obviously has a lot of bases. So even though this isn't actually being used for resources, it's still useful from a map control perspective. I remember when I was looking into the 2v2 meta of Brood War, unmodded Brood War, people mentioned that you needed a Zerg on your team to be competitive. And I do feel like maybe that's the case with these Nydus changes. Not really in the sense that there's no other options for anybody else, but insofar as other races don't really have the same luxury of being able to say, hey, look at all of the units that we have. So I am interested to see how that develops. These two Empyreans are still alive and still smashing and also kiting onto future stations, which is not very useful. And they should probably start picking other targets. There we go. Hey, they got updated. Oh, fuck that Matrolith. Holy shit, they actually killed it. Meanwhile, the fields of fucking acid over here. The Cascathalors with like 20 plus kills combined. Oh shit, there's more of them. Yeah, imagine I send somebody this screenshot and be like, what do you think of this? Because you got the ice water, you got the fucking acid fields, you got the unit in the frame, you got all sorts of stuff. I guess I could have waited for the Protoss units to show up again. But that was a fucking battle, all right. And these Empyreans are still spinning. Oh, you know what happened here is these Empyreans are cloaked. So this is another bug that we haven't been able to exactly figure out, is why units are getting like perpetually cloaked. And of course, this idiot didn't bother building a fucking Comsat or anything. So. He obviously doesn't have like a starport for mobile detection. So this unit is just going to spin, I guess until it gets in the range of a watchdog, and then it'll actually be able to do something. So, yeah, I'm not really sure why these units get perpetually cloaked. It looks like it's happened to all 4 of these Empyreans. So, unfortunately for our Terran homie, he's too dumb to build detection, and the game's too dumb to not decloak the unit because of some weird code that's probably just fighting our code. The whole cloaking thing that we did for the rewrite, that Veek did, primarily, I did some hooks to it that allowed him to do it, but it was mostly him who did it. That whole thing was actually quite... it was quite potent, I would say. And it took a lot of effort behind the scenes. It's the classic quintessential example, actually, of code that should be simple to write, because fundamentally what we're doing is so simple. We're just detecting when the unit attacks, and then we are removing the unit, removing the cloak feature from it, right? Like essentially updating visibility. It's so simple, but because of the way that Brood War handles stuff, it's just not working properly. Now I would hazard some guesses, since I get to do that right now because I'm watching this battle unfold, and even though I thought this map would actually end fairly quickly, we've been recording for 26 minutes now, so it's been coming along, man. This map's been going, and it might resolve because of ridiculous shit happening to units via cloaked men, but whatever, that's fine. Where I was going to go with that is, I might assume that because the Empyrean is has multiple attacks, maybe it's like kiting before it finishes the animation, because I've noticed that it like strafes sometimes, seemingly before the missiles actually spawn, which is a feature you could do with Valkyries, but the AI seems really competent at doing, assuming that's even happening. And maybe something to do with the fact that they shoot multiple shots is causing the cloak. I don't know, though. It does seem very strange. Meanwhile, Terrans are continuing to be pushed back. The resources are going to start to get depleted pretty soon, like the main's already depleted, the natural is on its way. This endless stream of defenders won't be able to keep up. The Zerg, on the other hand, on both sides are obviously like the powerhouses, and it does seem like with the Protoss back in action, even only on 2 bases, well, 1 base, really. This base doesn't really count by the depleted factor. Yeah, I think we're getting to the point where it's just absolutely ridiculous in terms of the things that are going on here. There were probably some Nydus proxy attempts that I didn't even get to see, because I was too busy talking about cloaked units that I could see. Classic. I like coming out of the Nydus. Oh, I thought he was going to like path to the island. You know, he's just defending. He's a nice guy. Ah! Own. Mesk was looking through the mod a long time ago, like, it must have been about a month now, because I believe it was around the same time that that patch that I was talking about earlier had just hit. So the patch from a month ago. Here's a proxy Nydus. Hold my Mesk. We got to see if this proxy Nydus pops through and if they actually use it. They are going to try to defend this, of course. But I wonder if, there it is. It's out. Here we go. Just 1 unit so far. Will they use it for longer? Oh, there we go. Some Protoss units coming through. Oh boy, this might be how the game resolves, you boys. Break the stalemate by teleporting my men. That's pretty good. Nyduses are so vulnerable that obviously this player could have just focused them down. And maybe we should even add code that handles like focusing Nyduses if possible. But yeah, that's pretty scary when that happens. So this base just got melted. It was a pretty high value base too. It had a lot of resources left, whereas like obviously the natural and mains do not for the Zerg. So he only has this, which is about to expire as well by the looks of things. Although he's probably floating a ridiculous amount of money anyway, so maybe it doesn't even matter for a little while. But the fact that they lost this base, at least they lost mining. I'm not sure if they'll be able to repulse this. There we go. There's another wave of Zerg from the top, so that's pretty epic. Yeah, that was a high point for sure. But yeah, what I was saying about Mesk is that since he was looking through it, he's the guy who's done, if you don't know, he's done a lot of stuff. But one of the things that he did relevant to this channel is he worked on some Brood War content back in the day, Armageddon Onslaught creator, if you know the mod. He also worked on, he did the Big Boys Table with me. He was the co-host of that, so it's a talk show, podcast. I guess just a podcast that I did a long time ago. And he looked through the mod, and the main takeaways, he was obviously very interested in the way that things were being put together. But his main takeaways were actually that if you smooth out the visuals and make them more consistent, this is hilarious. Where is that? Oh. This is the bunker trick. I don't know what the fuck they're doing. Vik mentioned that this bug was there, but he said he fixed it. Apparently not, homie! Now it's in a cast-over public on my YouTube channel forever. How could you? No, anyway. Mesk mentioned that the art assets are obviously not very smoothed out. And I agree. It'll be really nice when we finally have reached the promised land where there are a bunch of interested artistes out there looking to contribute to this project. Or when we've made sufficient money that I can actually afford to hire people. I would I'm just going to pay people eventually anyway. But the ideal scenario would be if you could somehow convince them to do it because they're passionate about it and then reward them anyway after the fact. Like, this is going to be a very philosophical segment of this cast over, but I do feel like it's almost like you have to prove that you're not in it for the money, and then when it comes time to actually get money from some work that you've done, it's like it's even more earned, I guess. But it's not that I don't believe in obviously paying people or people getting paid. I definitely believe in that. The problem is when that's the main motivation for them doing it. I've met some people, but not that many, who share this sentiment with me that right now I'm doing what I want to do. I'm making a video talking about my project as we're also doubling as a test for this project, and we're witnessing AI silliness and we're having a good time. We're talking about the patch, we're talking about the future of the project, where we're going after this, all those good things. The problem obviously comes from, like, can I keep the lights on? Can I pay the bills? And assuming I can do that, then I don't really care. Like, I'll just do this all the time. So if I could get paid to work in this project, I would only really be interested in asking for the amount of money necessary to afford me, like, what I need to keep doing things. And obviously the creature comforts, of course, of whatever I need. But even that wouldn't total out to be all that much. So I think I could get by on a very modest salary, to be honest. I can't believe this guy still he's not really that interested in getting any workers over here. What's gone wrong? Maybe it's CCMU, actually. That would, I would believe that. But I can test this, okay? I can spawn one. Nope, not CCMU. It would red me and say no if it was CCMU. So there you go. This Nydus appears to be under attack, under duress. This is another base that he can take, if he so desires. Assuming his own building doesn't just stop him from doing that. Which I guess it could. Maybe if we never see him take that base, that's the case. I guess one thing that's a bit sad is that the AI still don't really navigate the tech tree very well. The shadow stuff is a little bit more understandable as it just came out. The Protoss have been at tier 3 this whole time. Like, they have been fucking sitting around and smashing it. And I guess the problem with it for them is mostly that they have no money. They spend all their money on the limited production structures that they have. Can you believe that they built all the units that they've built off of 1 Grand Library, 2 gateways, and 3 argosies? Or 4 argosies, excuse me. I can't believe that that's real. Holy shit. And that's just because, like, they can't justify any further production structures because they don't have the cash. So, yeah, that's pretty sad. But it doesn't really matter. They've got permacloaked. Oh, these guys aren't permacloaked. The fuck that you lost your permacloaked cheap units? You guys suck. This is the fucking beach of Normandy where they land 2 Zethra cores and lose all Avalets. Nice. Don't worry, here come the Empyreans. They're still holding on to this. Holy shit. I thought they might have been making some real headway in here, but it looks like the Terrans have not dried up just yet. Although they aren't really producing out of a lot of their structures. They have so many structures. This is the opposite problem of the Protoss. He doesn't have enough structures. He also doesn't have enough money, so whatever. I feel like I had an unresolved thought in the middle of this. Welcome to the castover AI castover podcast, by the way. Oh, that guy decided to start moving. He came back to his computer at the wrong time. Yeah, I was talking about money and needing money. Oh yeah, artists. So I can make the concept art. That'll take me some time, but I can do it. Problem is finding people who are interested in doing it, and then like who don't. Wow, that was funny. Who don't see it as like a grift. Holy fuck, mom! Why are there so many moms? Zerg mom, what are you doing? Okay, bye. I guess they. I don't know what they were trying to do. That's really funny. I was gonna look around for an Orboth Omlia because it uses the same unit ID as the Infested Command Center, and I thought maybe they had one and the Matrolets were trying to infest it or something, but nope. No clue. No clue what was going on there. They were probably added to the attack or something. Oh shit. believe they call that ownage. This battle may never resolve. I guess if we hit 40 minutes of recording and it's still not resolved, I will start spamming +++. I guess I could just do that anyway. Let's watch this entertaining fight first. How many units will these Lakizilisks kill? This is a fucking hit squad of Lakizilisks. Look at this. It's like more than a whole control group of Lakizilisks. And all they're doing is just walking into death. At first they were doing some really effective stuff though. Hi. Augur! I wonder if it's legal to call somebody an augur. I feel like that holds some connotations. For a second I thought they couldn't even see them. I was really confused by that. Okay, bye. They still haven't taken the space. They've still spun. They haven't even taken the front line, really. They haven't crossed the threshold. They keep doing this and dying to all the static defense. Well, play static defense, mind you. A little bit goofy that there's so many spores, but I'm definitely pleased with the new logic. Like, I'm seeing way more watchdogs. Ion cannons I was always seeing. Bunkers I was kind of always seeing. But I guess the watchdogs over here got destroyed by Empyreans. But it's nice to see more static defense in general. Not really much for this guy, but he's... What do you expect? He can't even request enough units out of all of his argosies. He's on one base, and soon that base will be nothing. Will be this. Oh yeah, it's basically already that. Jesus. Poor guy. So yeah, it'll be nice when we get some artists who are interested. I'm not really sure how I would go about it, because I do feel scummy saying like, hey, want to work for free? Like, only hard work though. I only accept hard workers, but you want to do this for no money? But basically, it's like you have to find... You don't have to find... I'm not looking for an artist. I'm looking for a fan of RTS games that happens to have artistic talent and ability. Or just ability, I guess. Because with enough ability, it doesn't really matter how talented you are. You can do it. That's what I'm looking for. And that's harder to find. You know, the number of people who are interested in producing high-quality RTS games, pretty few and far between. So far, in terms of people who are like actual bona fide artistes and can do like 3D modeling and stuff, it's Balethal and DF. Like Vika's has been learning it, but he's a little bit far away from actually doing it. So, and understandably so, obviously. He's doing a bunch of other shit. He's doing programming and stuff. So yeah, I guess we've gotten there. ++, baby. Don't mind the UI. We're just gonna sort of lag mouse over here and see what we find. This might just be a perpetual stalemate, because again, the AI aren't massive. Like the one AI that could do the difference maker here is actually the Protoss. If the Protoss had more money, they would actually be able to do something. But because of this map being small, and because of his AI ally just taking all of the bases, he doesn't have anything. I guess if you killed that Nydus, something would happen. Because maybe the Protoss AI would take the base. But more likely, it would just be the Zerg AI taking the base. So I fast-forwarded. Looks like this guy's under attack, but I don't think this would do anything. I did hear an ion cannon, at least. That was cool. What do you say, boys? I say this one's over. I think we get to 40 minutes in-game time. We check. We see what's up. So yeah, long and short of it is, AI definitely needs some improvements. This is mostly a showcase of the game state and the Nydus stuff, I guess. I was hoping for some more new units to showcase, but again, the AI adoption of those isn't that far. So I guess what you can look forward to in the next castover is improved AI, probably a shorter video, as a matter of fact, because obviously it's going to resolve quicker. And then we'll just see where we go from there. Definitely improved AI, the build orders. Kian had a good suggestion after the last Fraudarchy, where we basically wanted to... He broke it down like so. What we're looking for is not to like completely remake all the build orders, although I will probably do that anyway. The most impactful change now would be to unit test, like individually test all the different build orders and find the ones that don't perform very well, probably in a team game setting where you can test like maybe 3 or 4 at a time, maybe like this. And then find out which ones don't perform very well, look at them and say like, okay, did they not perform because like they got hard countered or like blind countered, or did they not perform because they actually are written poorly? And then make some decisions based on that. And I think that's probably the way forward. So that's the way forward short term, and then obviously long term is just like remaking everything, which is fine. But yeah, I fast-forwarded it again, and the battle is just not resolving. They are trying to attack this. Another thing I would really like to do is get the AI to use the higher tier Ovoleths. If you don't know, AI usage of Overlords in the vanilla game is so heavily hard-coded. They have this ridiculous thing where they perpetually will spin them around, which is what you see all the time when you see Ovoleths just anywhere. If I could find one. This is funny. Yeah, you can see them spinning around over here. Like, they just sort of patrol them over and over again. And that's great for, like, visuals. It's a nice aesthetic touch. But it stops them from being able to be used as transports. And then obviously the faster transports and the transports with more capacity are up the food chain. And that's balanced in human play because you have to, invest into your transport strains in order to get better transport. Not very useful in this context though. AI don't morph them, so we don't have the luxury. So I'd like to do that. But at the very least, I could promise some improved AI scripts, build orders, and handling of that sort of stuff. Obviously, integrating the new tech and stuff is going to be very exciting. So I guess, even though I didn't get to showcase much of that tech, I hope you enjoy the Nydus stuff. I thought the Nydus proxy was pretty epic. And I hope you enjoy the fact that I'm promising so much shit in this patch, and so much shit actually did get changed in this patch, that you should probably pop in and see for yourself what it's all about. What's all the hubbub about? And play some games, and maybe you'll get destroyed by the AI, or maybe you'll destroy them. Either way, I hope you enjoy. And that is my Todd Talk. Thanks for coming.